Welcome A-level law students. Look, I know the court structure can sometimes feel like a massive, confusing bowl of alphabet soup, but we're going to fix that today. We're using a cartoon-style whiteboard approach to make every single role on this judicial ladder literally unforgettable for your exams. So let's jump right in.
Here's our game plan. This visual staircase maps our top-down journey. We'll start with the ultimate rulebook, meet the final bosses up at the Supreme Court, and then step our way down to the heavy lifters, the solo players, and finally, the frontline judges.
All right, Section 1, the ultimate rulebook. Before we can climb this hierarchy, we have to establish the baseline rules of the game. What does a judge actually do all day?
So, the crucial point here is that whether you're a frontline magistrate or the absolute top judicial authority in the entire country, every single judge shares this exact same core mission. Your primary job is to decide disputes in a fair, completely unbiased way while strictly applying the law of England and Wales. But, it's not just about the final dramatic courtroom verdict. Judges are also essentially high-level project managers. They're responsible for case management before the trial even begins, making sure the parties get everything ready as quickly and efficiently as possible.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive divide in our system. Think of trial judges or judges of first instance as your fact-finders. They listen to live witness evidence. In a criminal crown court, they sit with the jury, but in a civil court, they usually sit alone. They literally have to figure out the facts and apply the law. But appeal judges, they are entirely different. They are essentially legal debaters. They don't hear from witnesses at all. They only care about the paperwork, the really complex legal arguments, and deciding if the original trial decision should stand. Keep that massive distinction in your head.
Okay, moving to Section 2, Supreme Court Bosses. We are starting at the absolute top of the ladder with the final bosses of the legal system. There are only 12 of these elite judges in the entire Supreme Court. Just 12. Literally a dozen people. They are simply and powerfully known as justices.
Now, these 12 justices have enormous power. They hear appeals coming all the way up from the Court of Appeal, or exceptionally direct from the High Court, as well as from Scotland and Northern Ireland. But they don't just take any old case. No, they only deal with incredibly complex points of law. Think super dense tax or planning legislation. And because any decision they make sets a binding precedent that all lower courts must legally follow, they always sit in uneven panels of at least 3 judges. Why? To ensure there's never a tie vote. Oh, and here's a fun fact for your exams. These exact same judges also put on a totally different hat to sit as the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council for certain overseas territories. Talk about multitasking.
To give you an idea of just how exclusive and focused their workload actually is, the Supreme Court only hears about 70 cases each year. 70. The vast majority of these are civil cases involving incredibly technical interpretations of legislation. They are for sure the ultimate quality over quantity court.
Stepping down one rung, we reach Section 3, the heavy lifters at the Court of Appeal.
So, if the Supreme Court has 12 justices doing 70 cases, here we find the 38 Lords Justices of Appeal. Their workload is significantly heavier. They sit in panels of 3 to tackle the massive, relentless volume of appeals coming up from the lower courts right below them.
It's really fascinating how this enormous workload is divided into 2 very distinct lanes, civil and criminal. In the criminal division, a panel of 3 might hear a defendant challenging a guilty conviction or maybe arguing that their prison sentence was just way too harsh. Meanwhile, right next door, in the civil division, another panel is hearing appeals against who was actually found liable in a dispute, or perhaps they're adjusting the remedy, like changing the amount of money awarded as damages. It's a non-stop operation.
Okay, grab your pens, because here is a massive pro tip for your exam essays. When you're citing a quote from one of these 38 Court of Appeal judges from a law report, you use their surname followed by the letters LJ. That stands for Lord Justice or Lady Justice. So writing Sing LJ immediately shows your examiner you know exactly which court you're talking about. It's a great way to show off your knowledge.
Moving right along to Section 4, High Court Solo Players. We are officially stepping out of the appeal courts and down into the realm of first instance trials.
High court judges are powerful solo operators. Unlike the panels of 3 or more we just saw upstairs, a high court judge flies completely solo. They are assigned strictly to just one of 3 specialized divisions. You've got the Queen's Bench, the Chancery, or the Family Division. Their main gig, trying cases of first instance, which just means the really big, high-stakes cases being heard in court for the very first time. They do also have a bit of a side job hearing civil appeals that trickle up from the county court.
Now, because this is a first-instance civil court, juries are incredibly rare. The solo judge basically does the whole shebang. They step through a very exact sequence. First, they listen to the live witnesses, then they read the towering stacks of case papers, decide the law and liability to declare winner, and finally, they calculate and award the remedy. They are literally a one-person legal powerhouse.
And hey, here is your second exam citation pro tip. For your law reports, high court judges are cited simply with a J after their surname. This stands for Mr. Justice or Mrs. Justice. Simple, elegant, and an incredibly easy mark to grab if you get it right in your essays.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the frontline judges. We're looking at the inferior level courts, which is where the absolute vast majority of the British public will actually interact with the justice system.
Let's start with circuit judges. These folks are full-time heavyweights who wear two very different hats. In the civil county court, they sit completely alone. They decide the law, the facts, the liability, and the damages. But actually, switch over to the criminal crown court, and they team up with a jury. Over there, the jury decides the ultimate verdict of guilty or not guilty, while the judge strictly manages the law and, if necessary, hands down the sentence. Next up on the front line, we have recorders. Think of this role as the ultimate legal side hustle. They are part-time judges appointed for 5-year stints. They're basically brought in to help clear the backlog of the justice system. They handle minor criminal cases in the Crown Court, or they step into the county court to resolve small civil claims under £10,000.
And right at the base of our ladder, we have district judges. They handle the relentless, super fast-paced workload of the magistrates' courts. They sit completely alone, deciding both the facts and the law. They decide guilt and hand down sentences with the exact same powers as a traditional bench of lay magistrates. Sometimes they even pop over to sit in the family court alongside lay magistrates. They are without a doubt the absolute workhorses of the front line.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought exercise to really ponder as you prepare for your A-level exams. We've just mapped out a system built entirely on a top-down hierarchy of binding precedent. The front line is bound by the solo players by the heavy lifters, and everyone is strictly bound by those 12 justices at the top. So, who polices the rule makers? Who actually holds those 12 Supreme Court justices accountable? Keep that in your head as you revise. Thank you so much for joining me on this climb up the judicial ladder, and absolute best of luck with your studying.